Hello, Arkansas, and welcome to this week's edition of Arkansas Money Talk, brought to you by the team of Retire Path Wealth. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley, and joining me in the studio is Dale Colclaser. He is the president of Wealth Management, and co-founder Mark Smalling. We're so glad you're spending this time with us today. We are going to be sharing with you all about the One Big Beautiful Bill and how it affects you and your retirement. This is a wide-ranging piece of legislation that with it has brought lots of changes. We want you to be informed, so stay tuned. We're going to talk all about that and so much more today. But first, Dale, Mark, so good to be here with both of you. How are you this week?
Oh, very excited. Just wanted to make sure you remember too, or to point out again, that as of first quarter, we've got multiple offices open here in Arkansas and Central Arkansas as well as Northwest.
I was going to bring that up because you've had so much growth and it's expanding. So talk a little bit about what's been happening.
Well, I mean, we've been growing, we've been adding people every day, and now we've added a new office. So we've expanding our footprint in the great state of Arkansas.
Yes, we love it. We're loving how you're able to really get this message out. It's clearly resonating with a lot of folks, and so it's exciting to see. So this is great, and we're so glad again that you're joining us today. All right, so time to tackle this One Big Beautiful Bill, and specifically how it could affect you and your retirement. And guys, it's been really interesting because I feel like a lot of folks have struggled to find the right information, right? It was, the bill came out in July of 2025, and all of a sudden it was like, okay, what do we need to understand about this? This is confusing. So let's start with some of the updates that every household needs to understand, especially for those who are nearing or entering retirement. So first of all, how does the One Big Beautiful Bill change the income thresholds that determine how Social Security is taxed?
Well, that's one of the things that it actually didn't change, was how they calculate whether or not your Social Security benefits are taxable or not. The provisional income chart and how they calculate that has not changed. What has changed is they've added some additional standard deductions for folks that are 65 or older. So in a lot of cases, it's going to reduce or maybe eliminate any taxes that someone may actually owe on their Social Security benefits. But as far as eliminating those, it hasn't done that, and it really the calculations are still the same. Those calculations and the charts they use for that haven't changed since 1993.
And what was frustrating, I think there was so much talk in the news about, let's get away from taxation on Social Security, which would be wonderful, right? Yes. But that wasn't able to happen with this bill passing, but it's still important to understand these thresholds, your provisional income, because a lot of people are still confused to not even know that their Social Security could be taxed.
Oh, 100%, because the one thing that it did do is for folks on the lower end of the realm, it may have, if you paid a little bit on your Social Security, as Mark's already mentioned, didn't change how your Social Security is taxed, but it enhanced, if you're 65 or older, it enhances your ability to have a larger standard deduction, which may in effect reduce all of the taxes away from your Social Security or give you more access to funds in the lower tax brackets. We're essentially bringing your tax bill down. It just didn't simply eliminate full tax on Social Security.
Yes, thank you for clarifying that. I think that's where a lot of the confusions come in, right?
Right, and before this happened, about 36% of folks were paying taxes on their Social Security. That's going to, what they're projecting is that's going to be closer to 12%. They're actually going to be paying taxes on their Social Security benefits. So it has reduced how many people are paying taxes on their Social Security benefits, but it hasn't eliminated them completely.
Correct.
And then, we're going to talk about later about phasing out with income and all of that, because how much you make and how much you take from other sources does make a difference in all of this.
Oh, for sure. And as we always say, success in retirement is not about how much you have, it's about how much you get to keep. So you're going to want to stay tuned as we continue on this conversation. Next item to address is, what should retirees know about required minimum distributions and how traditional IRA withdrawals can impact their taxable income under the new rules?
Well, so RMDs, those haven't, the rules for that haven't changed. And as you're making distributions out of your retirement accounts, we need to pay attention because depending on what your modified adjusted gross income, and the only difference between modified adjusted gross income and the adjusted gross income that shows up on the front of your 1040 form every year is they add back non-taxable interest, such as municipal bond interest is added back into that calculation. So for an individual taxpayer, that starts phasing out about $75,000. For couple, it starts phasing out at 150, and it completely phases out at 150 for individuals and 250 for couples. So you could phase out the extra tax deduction if you're taking too much money from other sources or being required to take more money out because you have required minimum distributions that are coming up.
Right. So again, this just speaks to the importance, which we talk about a lot on this show, about making sure that you know what strategy you're using and the timing of these withdrawals and the amounts, because it can get convoluted very quickly.
Right, because we're really only talking about income taxes here. The other thing that didn't change at all is IRMA. You know, there are other taxes to be involved that are outside of just the income, and especially when we're talking about RMDs, of forcing that up and increasing the cost of your Medicare premium.
Right, so IRMA, again, that income-related monthly adjustment amount, which can be triggered if the government deems that you earn too much money. You could be paying a surcharge on your Medicare premiums, and a lot of folks aren't aware of that. Also, the fact that there's a 2-year look back, meaning they're looking at your income from 2 years prior to determine how much they're going to charge.
Right. So here you could have a double whammy where you pick up IRMA and then you actually lose the extra standard deduction that was put in place for the next few years. So you know people oftentimes come to us and they tell us that no one's ever had this tax conversation with them, or how does all this work? In fact, I had a phone call the other day from some clients in Northwest Arkansas, and they were asking me about this, and they already had another advisor that actually manages some of their money right now, but they haven't had that conversation with them.
Wow.
And so once we went through it, one of the things they were doing is they were having them take out too much money for taxes out of their distributions from their retirement plan. They only need to take out about a third of what they actually were based on all these new standard deductions and taking advantage of all of those, and then staying below a certain threshold. No one was there to help them fill out the IRMA forms. We helped them fill those out. Those are things that we just believe is a part of a complete retirement income process.
Yes, no, for sure. And I love that you leave no stone unturned and you have these conversations with folks that a lot of times when people come to meet with you, you've shared this with me, they're often working with another financial professional, but they're not having these kinds of conversations, right?
Well, and not just one, but with multiple.
Yes.
And again, the question is, hey, why did my CPA explain this to me? And I think the other major challenge that most people have is that 90% of all tax preparers are working in the compliance world, not in the planning world, because this really all comes down to a planning conversation. The fact of the matter is we have people come in on a daily basis and go, oh, I have this advisor I've been working with. I have this tax person. I have this other insurance agent. They do all this individual stuff for me. And I think I have a plan. And we ask, well, where is it? And obviously there's nothing they can produce, where they bring something out and it's like, hey, what do all these little good-looking graphs mean? And they say, I don't really know. And the reality is, if you don't actually have a plan in place that takes into consideration taxes and the effect of how those are going to minimize your income and minimize the ability for you to be able to utilize the assets that you've put in place, and I don't have a plan for how I'm going to access this, and then when a tax law like this comes in the middle of the year and makes changes that some of them are effective January the 1st of 25, some things aren't effective until January the 1st of 26, how does that affect my outcome? Guys, if you don't have that plan in place, please pick up the phone calls today, scan that QR code, come in, walk through the Retire Path process, and let us show you the value we can add to your scenario.
Wonderful. Well, I know we've got a lot more to get to. Dale, Mark, thank you so much. But again, if this is resonating with you, if you want help figuring out what this looks like for you and your situation, you don't have to go it alone. The team of Retire Path Wealth is here to help and serve you. But you do need to reach out. So we encourage you to call and schedule your time to receive your very own complimentary written income plan today. You can do so by calling 866-724-3893. Or if you'd rather connect online, simply grab your smartphone, just scan that QR code in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, and that will get you connected as well. Stay with us. We'll be back with more regarding the One Big Beautiful Bill and how it could affect you and your retirement right after this.
I didn't start out in Medicare. Medicare is something that came along later in my career. I started with Northwestern Mutual as a college intern back in the early 90s, and I was with Northwestern Mutual as an advisor for about 12 years, and then I actually went out on my own after that. And it was actually when I joined another firm that needed somebody to get into Medicare, because Medicare was going through a lot of changes. That's when I got into the Medicare business. And I became an intern at Northwestern Mutual through a college, job fair day. And that there was the advisor for Northwestern Mutual out of Little Rock. The district manager came over with his recruiting specialist, and that's how I ended up as an investment advisor at Northwestern Mutual. So that's how I got into the game. The thing that I enjoy most about my career is being able to help people on a daily basis. I mean, to literally see people come in the office that are scared and there's a lot of trepidation about what do I do and where do I go from here, and having them leave with that weight lifted off of their shoulders. Making sure that everyone that comes in to our office leaves feeling like they've received something of value from us.
Welcome back, Arkansas. You're watching Arkansas Money Talk. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley, here with both Dale and Mark from Retire Path Wealth. And we're so glad you're hanging out with us today. If you're just tuning in, we are having an important conversation all about the One Big Beautiful Bill and how it could affect you and your retirement. Again, as they say, the only constant in Washington is change. And with this bill comes some important updates that could affect you and your situation. So we're unpacking all of that today. And guys, next thing we need to address is this whole change of the standard deduction. You mentioned this earlier, but we really want to flesh this out now so that folks understand what we're talking about. So let's look at the practical day-to-day financial impacts, especially for those who are already retired or those approaching retirement. So how does the bill change the standard deduction specifically for retirees and older adults?
Well, that's a great question. You're right. Everyone has confusion around this. In fact, it was confusing when they put it out, how it was going to actually be implemented. But what has come out of all of it is that if you're 65 plus and you're using the standard deduction, you already had a senior standard deduction. If you're an individual, that was $2,000. For couples, it was $1,600 apiece, or $3,200 on top of the standard deduction. And about 85% of people in this country use the standard deduction when they're filing their taxes. So what this has done is it's added an extra $6,000 per individual tax holder, or $12,000 for couples if they're both over 65. And so it's added that. So it's taken, if you're a couple and you're 65 plus, you're going to have $47,400 worth of standard deductions. So income that is not taxable, at all. The first 47.4. If you're an individual, that's 24.1 is $24,100 is not taxable. So those are huge amounts of money that are not taxable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's good news for folks, right? I mean, anything that doesn't have to get taxed, that's a great thing to be aware of.
Right, it's more money in your pocket.
Yeah, but you said you had that story earlier where folks were already working with someone and they were not having that kind of conversation.
They were not having
right?
that conversation,
Yeah.
And you're taking distributions out of retirement plans, and there's these automatic taxes that are being withheld, and oftentimes you're exacerbating the situation because you're taking money out you don't even need to take out to
Right.
actually net the amount of money you need, and you're paying taxes on taxes you don't even owe.
Wow. Yeah. And that's what we want to avoid for
Exactly.
sure. What were you
Oh,
gonna say, Dale?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, because again, the other thing that happened back with Secure Act 2.0 in 2022 is they standardized the 10% withholding amount. And so now I hear it all the time and says, well, I just heard this is standard. Okay, so since when are you standard? Everybody's exactly the same. It's one of those things where we actually need to run a calculation to determine how much money I need to withhold. Some states are that way, and Arkansas is one of them. If you hold a distribution, you've got to take out at least 3. A lot of people have now moved that to 5, so we can't change some of those outcomes. But the reality is, if I only owe 6 or 7% marginal tax overall, why would I even want to withhold 10? I'm just having to be forced to take out more money to get a larger refund, unless maybe conversions are something that makes sense for me. Because the other huge thing and the opportunity that's presented itself that's really monstrous is if you're in the lower end of the tax bracket, you just picked up about another $12,000 to be able to be totally tax-free. So I can take more money out of an IRA account. If I haven't started my Social Security benefits, this is definitely a conversation you're going to want to have with us, because if I can get money out of an IRA account or my retirement accounts and pay no tax on that, Mark just talked about it, the first 24,000 or up to 47 free. Why would I want to miss figuring out if that's my best option? Just because I'm 65 or I'm 62 and I can turn on Social Security, getting that additional money out of an account without paying taxes on it, deferring my Social Security benefit for a 6 or 8% compound each year might make a whole lot more sense than just starting the benefit and supplementing the difference, is what I hear all the time, you know, and then withhold 10% taxes and heck, let's see what happens.
So in essence, what you're saying is that this bill has helped it become even more attractive for folks to entertain the idea of doing a Roth conversion.
At least for the next 3 years.
Right.
Yep.
And then that all changes again. So folks, as we talk about here all the time, the reason I want to have a written income plan in place is so I know what to plan for in the future. Not just for the next 1 year or the next 30 years, but what happens 3 years from now if this tax code sunsets like it's currently set to do? What changes may I need to make at that point? Where do I need to draw income from outside of there? I need to plan in advance for things that I know are likely going to change.
For sure. Well, and this is why we want to highlight as well your awesome tax bill calculator that we've shared on the show before. I know every time we share it, you get a huge response. So if you're new to us, you definitely want to take advantage of this opportunity, because Dale and Mark have a free calculator that we're going to put here for you on the bottom of your screen. We invite you to visit retirepathtaxtest.com. You can get there by going to that site or by scanning that QR code. And this is going to give you a really great snapshot of your individual situation. It's going to show you the difference between the government's tax plan for you if you do nothing versus how much less you could pay in tax if you enact some of these tax saving strategies like a Roth conversion. What would your encouragement be to folks who are new to you, new to this, and are going, I'm curious, what am I going to find out when I visit this site?
Well, they should absolutely take a look at it. I mean, had a conversation in the last couple of weeks with someone whose vast majority of their money's in qualified plans, trying to buy a house, moving from one place to the other, and they're having to pull money out. If they'd had that conversation about Roth conversions, as Dell was mentioning earlier, because people think they've got all this money in qualified plans, it's not all yours. So if you'd like to see what the tax consequences are on your current retirement plan, take a look at our retirepathtaxtest.com. It will help show you how much is actually is going to the government and not into your pocket.
Right, for sure. Well, I think we have a few minutes here before we need to take another break. So let me walk you through what you're going to see when you visit this site. You're going to see this landing page, and you're going to put in some very basic information, including your name, the email address that you want the complimentary report sent to, along with your current age. And the reason is because what this tool will do is calculate the potential tax bill over the rest of your life. You're also going to put in how much money you have saved up in those qualified plans, those tax deferred accounts. For you, that could be a traditional 401k, traditional IRA, things of that nature. Then you'll notice those two little sliders in green down there at the bottom. You can play around and adjust the assumed tax liability for yourself, as well as the assumed growth rate on that tax deferred bucket of money. And then once you click submit, two things will happen. Instantly, side by side, you're going to see the difference there between the government's tax plan for you on the left if you do nothing versus how much less you could pay in tax there on the right-hand side. But that's not all. You're also going to receive a complimentary 4-page report emailed to you. This is a screenshot of 1 page of that report showing you the breakdown of your numbers side by side. And guys, this is crazy, right? You look at this amount, this person had $500,000 saved up in tax deferred accounts, 25% tax liability, assumed a growth rate of 7%. The difference between having to potentially pay over $1 million in taxes over the rest of their life or just $125,000, I mean, how is that even possible?
Well, it's the fact of planning. I mean, it's the idea of putting a plan in place as opposed to just simply letting things happen to you. Folks, you've lived your whole life trying to get in the highest tax bracket that you can while we're accumulating. I mean, let's face it, that's our goal, as much as income as I can get. Now you finally have the opportunity to have more control over your situation as you enter those early years of retirement and begin to make those decisions. The other thing I want to point out to you too is if you're already retired, you've already done some of these things. Folks, it's not too late. We've seen cases just in the last 2 or 3 months of people coming in that were able to make dramatic effect in the future of their outcome that have already, maybe had the wrong plan in place to start with.
For sure. Well, I'm excited for more folks to connect with both of you as a result of today's show. So Dale, Mark, thank you. But if this is resonating with you, or if you've gone to retirepathtaxtest.com and your jaw is now on the floor, don't worry. The team of Retire Path Wealth has got you. That's just the first step. The main way that Dale and Mark and the team can help and serve you is through the form of having your very own complimentary written income plan. To schedule yours, simply call 866-724-3893. Or again, if you'd rather connect online, just scan that QR code and that will get you connected as well. We'll be back with more right after this.
We're based in Little Rock, Arkansas. We're licensed literally in 37 states, though, so we can reach across the realm. The greatest benefit of being independent is simply choice, but always having basically the entire investment universe to go search for the best answers for individual clients and then helping to narrow that down. We do a very solid job up front in our data gathering process of not just getting information, but getting a sense of feeling what a client's real objectives and long-term goals are based on where their finances are. From years and years of doing what we believe is simply doing the right thing. We're going to find and get that answer for you, not, hey, here's someone else you can call, see if they can answer this question for you. We like to have those resources on hand. Did you know Uncle Sam might be your partner in retirement? It's true. If you have a 401k, IRA, pension, or other similar retirement accounts, they're all tax targets. But how much? Get our easy-to-use tax calculator and plug in the numbers yourself. Go to retirepathtaxtest.com and find out your potential tax hit.
Welcome back to Arkansas Money Talk. I'm Kristen Oakley here with both Dale and Mark from Retire Path Wealth. And today we have been sharing with you a lot about the One Big Beautiful Bill and how it could affect you and your retirement. I think one of the biggest takeaways from what we've talked about so far, guys, is that this is a time-sensitive conversation, right? We know where tax rates are going to be. We know what the law says, at least for the next 3 years. So now is the time to take action. And if you've not yet utilized our tax bill calculator, we encourage you to visit retirepathtaxtest.com. Again, completely free resource for you to go see what your numbers would look like. Here's the good news, folks. You don't have to settle for the government's tax plan for you. There is a better way. So as we kind of bring it all home into this conversation regarding the One Big Beautiful Bill, what's the biggest long-term planning takeaway, in your opinion, from all these tax law changes that have occurred?
Well, there's several things, Kristen, but one of them is that flexibility matters more than anything right now. I mean, as you mentioned, we've got a few years to take advantage of this. The actual tax brackets haven't changed with all that. They're still the same. We do think that at some point in the future they will go up. And so it's coordinating all of these things. We talk about modified adjusted gross income and taxation of Social Security and planning our RMDs. How do all those things work together? It's really more important than ever to actually have a plan for how you're going to utilize all these things and make them work best together and not just let them happen.
Well, the other thing, Krista, I just want to make sure and add in here too is timing is of the essence. If I'm looking at this and you just ran those calculations and you ran them as a married filing jointly tax situation, remember, you only get to do that as long as you have a spouse, okay? So if I've planned taxes out that we're both always going to be here, the reality is that the statistics just don't weigh that out. Women are going to typically live substantially longer than men. If there's an age disparity or a gap already between two spouses that are there, just think of the tax implications if one spouse was to predecease the other. If you have large IRA accounts, folks, you can't wait on getting a plan in place to take advantage of these opportunities.
No, for sure. The time is now, time to take action, time to sit down. And typically these strategies too, in terms of withdrawing money from your accounts or doing something like a Roth conversion, is better suited doing it over a span of years, right? It's not something that typically you do in one fell swoop.
Well, it's really funny because if you run it through software, it's going to make the exact same assumptions that we just made. Gosh, I'm going to live to 96 years old and we're both going to be here. And so let's just convert every bit of it today, because that always makes the most mathematical sense. Folks, I'm going to tell you, it's the most illogical conversation you've ever had, because nobody, or very, very seldom do people perceive the value to that. Now, everybody's situation is different, but as Kristen just mentioned, lots of times it makes sense to put a plan in place to access portions each year up to some maximum tax bracket. The beauty of the conversation we're having today is if you're 65 years old, you just picked up another $6,000 on top of whatever tax bracket you had. If you and your spouse both are over 65, we just picked up another $12,000. Folks, in a 22% tax bracket, if you qualify for all of these things, again, we don't want to break, maybe we don't break through other certain issues or other thresholds that are there, but you just picked up $4,600 in tax that you now don't have to pay. The reality is maybe it makes sense to go ahead and pay those taxes today, because that $4,600 is not the $8,700 we assume it to be 3 years from now if tax code changes back.
Right. No, so well said. Well, I'm curious, because we spent a lot of time today talking specifically about retirees and those already, nearing and entering retirement. What about folks who are watching, who are still working and saving? What does all this mean for them?
Well, everyone that's still working should be looking at the different options that they have with employer plans, or whether they're putting money in IRAs or Roth IRAs, determine which one's best for their specific situation. Everybody's situation is unique. So, if we think we're going to be living in a lower tax situation when we retire, and we think that's the reality of our situation, maybe doing pre-tax is not a bad idea. But if we think we're going to live in the same tax brackets, which we think are going to go up, making Roth contributions today makes a lot of sense.
Well, it all comes back to the plan, doesn't it?
That's it. And again, just to reiterate, I want to talk about the written income plan, not the retirement plan, the 401k you have in place. Guys, that's just the vehicle I put money into. That is not a plan for distribution.
Yep, for sure. And I can't think of a better team for folks in Arkansas to get to partner with throughout the great state to be able to figure out what this means for them. So
we
Dale,
agree.
Mark, thank you so much. Well, we encourage you to reach out. Again, if you're already working with another financial professional and they're not having these kinds of conversations with you, you owe it to yourself to get a second opinion. And the team of Retire Path Wealth would love to be able to provide that for you in the form of your very own complimentary written income plan. 866-724-3893 is the number to call to schedule yours. We love you, Arkansas. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time here on Arkansas Money Talk.